Hearing the donkey baying in the morning and the chickens being let out of the coops and the horses tromping around out in the prairie. Those sounds are instinctual inside of us that we don't hear anymore.
Welcome to In the Parks, an Indiana State Parks podcast. I'm Allison Martin, and I'm excited to tell the stories of these amazing places in the Hoosier State. Our parks show off the best of Indiana, but there's so much more to these parks, and it's time to go in-depth to really know the stories and discover what makes each destination unique and valuable as part of Indiana. On In the Parks, you'll learn about the people, legends, and places that formed Indiana's parks in the past and who's writing the story now. Today, we're going back to Prophetstown, but this time to the farm. The farm at Prophetstown State Park is where the park tells the story of 1920s Indiana farm life. The red barn, windmill, pastures, and farmhouse are one of the first things you see when you pull into the park. It really is picture perfect. The farmhouse from every Indiana postcard you can imagine. My friend Kate and I got a full-on history and tour of the farm from Lee, the executive director at the farm. It's a great position because when you pull in, like we pulled in this morning, and it was like the sun is rising, and I was like, this is like a quintessential American farm. Like when people think farmland America, this is exactly what they're imagining. And so to have that be the very first thing you see when you pull in here really sets the stage for like everything else you're going to experience.
Yeah, when you come up the drive, you round the corner, and then all of a sudden it's like you go back in time. You go to a different location. It's magical.
Last episode, we got into all things prairie and Native American at Prophetstown. The farm is where you can wander the lawn with chickens, have a picnic in the apple orchard, take a walk through what feels like great-grandma's house in the tenant home, or relax with friends at a farm-to-table dinner. Let's officially meet Lee, who you just heard from. His background isn't in farming or agriculture. He came from the corporate world with a career at Eli Lilly and later had his own home care agency with his wife. His skills in community outreach, communication, business growth, and staffing have made him the right leader for the farm.
My name is Lee Gowdy. I'm the executive director at the farm at Prophetstown. I've been at Prophetstown for 2 years. I know more now about alfalfa than I ever dreamed was even possible.
According to Lee, the farm started out as part of a larger concept, well before the property even became a state park. Initially, the farm, Native American village, and prairies were part of the museum at Prophetstown, a nonprofit that represented the various groups of people and habitats that existed in the past. Eventually, a partnership formed between Indiana DNR and the museum, which led to DNR taking over the prairies and Native American village in order to better restore and interpret them. Meanwhile, the museum became the farm at Prophetstown, a 100-acre nonprofit that exists within the park property to show the history of 1920s farm life.
Backing up a little bit, if you would have been on site in 1998, this was all fields. Mm-hmm. Even though today it looks like this farm has been present since the 1920s. See the gambrel barn, which are not really made anymore. And when you see the farmhouses, this looks like 1920s, but it wasn't here. People come to one location and start seeing what it was like back in the, and you can walk the prairies and see amazing things, and then come to the farm, see a different time period, and experience that. And we're a living museum where you can come and actually, those folks just said it earlier this morning. A lot of museums you go to, you got to stand behind the ropes, and you can't, people open the drawers, and the smells, it's like grandma's house, or, older folks, it's reliving memories from their past. For new and younger, it's learning what it was like.
Lee's goal for the farm is for it to be your third place. And if that's a new term for you, it was for me too.
Have you heard of third place?
No.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes
no.
and no. Okay, good. Third place. I'm at home all the time, and I'm at work all the time. Gosh, that spot along the river, or that place I just get away and just feel safe at and bring it down and just get away from the hustle and bustle and the TVs and all the advertising and everything. My third place where I go relax, and it's kind of my space.
What exactly is a third place? The term comes from an urban sociologist named Ray Oldenburg. He wrote a book called Great Good Place in 1989, where he argues that coffee shops, bars, community centers, and even hair salons are the type of informal hangout places where community is truly developed. Your home is your first place, your work is your second place. These third places are public, casual spaces where new and old relationships form, where you can relax and step out of the fast lane. Third places are what I think about when I watch a TV show and see the main characters all hanging out together. So pick the generational show that works for you. The bar Cheers, the diner Jerry Seinfeld and his friends go to, Central Perk on Friends, JJ's Diner on Parks and Rec, or Starcourt Mall in Stranger Things. Lee sees state parks and places like the farm as even more important third places.
I see people bringing their picnic lunches out and feeding the chickens and just coming here and relaxing. And I said, well, let's try that. Making the farm your third place and just getting away from the hustle bustle. You know, once you come into the park, the farm's free to access. I mean, you can come and enjoy and be a part of it and just get away from the busyness of the world and your life and the work and make the farm your third place.
Plus, Lee suggests the farm's location makes it ideal for an escape from the city.
If you look at where we're located, we're an hour and a half out of Chicago and we're an hour out of Indianapolis. Being placed between those two, I think we're in a great location that we have opportunities to draw from both of those cities, and we have a lot to offer here.
A third place is typically a neutral space where everyone is on the same level, a place that provides time for conversations and connections to happen, a spot with a balance of regulars and new faces. Plus, a third place should be wholesome, invoke playfulness, and not be pretentious. Most of all, it should feel refreshing and enjoyable, like a home away from home. In a post-COVID world where people's home and work are often in the same place, the need for a third place is even more important. The farm at Prophetstown is a perfect third place, and arguably, so are all of our state parks. The farm provides a chance to connect with each other, animals, and the past. It provides a wholesome place for fun and creativity, and it lets you recenter yourself. One of the events the farm hosts that I was really intrigued by are the farm-to-table dinners. If you're looking for a unique adult event with your friends, this would be really fun. It's textbook third place, an opportunity for friends to connect in a peaceful, laid-back environment.
So it started with the farm, and one of the full-time staff members was a chef and wanted to see how the farm-to-table dinners would go, and it was a big hit. And the farm-to-table dinner brings people out who may not come out to the farm. It's more of an intimate, social, 30 plate is about where we hit the max at, and it's maybe once a month. It's on the first floor of this house, so you're coming in, we let the chickens out, and you get to experience driving into the farm and walking the farm, coming in for dinner. And then we use our meat off the farm, our produce. If some of those things aren't available, we use local growers and local people to get their involvement as well.
The themed 5-course dinners have menus that will absolutely make you hungry. Here's what was served in October: autumn harvest salad, pumpkin bisque, chestnut and wild mushroom risotto, rosemary rubbed ribeye with butternut squash puree and roasted Brussels sprouts, and for dessert, French apple cake. While there is a chef on staff, Lee also works with local chefs.
I also like utilizing chefs in our community to come out and do a couple dinners. One, I want to change it up a little bit. Every chef is going to have their style, and they also have a different following. And I let them be creative. You know, it doesn't have to be 1920s, but have a 1920s thought to it, but be creative. And that's why chefs like coming out here.
Check out the farm's website for each month's menu and to make reservations. While the farm-to-table dinners are 21 and up, there are plenty of other activities for the entire family to connect, play, and relax. There's literally something going on just about every weekend, all year round.
Each weekend we have some type of an event. It's the kind of events you remember as a kid. Whether it's living history, antique tractor show with kids, dancing and concert in the barn, the purse rendezvous demonstration, vintage baseball game, apple dumpling, trick or treat with the animals, breakfast with Santa, Christmas on the farm, New Year's Day celebration. Trolley ride. Did you see the trolley ride?
Okay, and that was just events this fall Lee knew off the top of his head.
The Percherons get hooked up to the trolley ride. We do 4 trips around out into the prairie and you're eating ice cream and fresh made apple dumplings.
Who do you have to thank for organizing all these events? Meet Sunshine.
Well, my name is Medea Sunshine Bickett, so you'll hear people call me 2 different names. Some Medea, some Sunshine. I've been here now, just a couple months, but I come from Purdue, and I do all of our events, our website, our social media, our marketing and educational outreach. So our tours and field trips and stuff. Our last event was our barn dance. We had a good turnout. We had 2 bands. We had Lafayette Fun Square dancers. We had a local, kind of a big name band that came and played with us. We had our food service team out. We had ribs, corn on the cob, apple pie and watermelon. Families were out, kids were dancing, everybody was just happy.
The events are fun and creative, a great way to cultivate that third place mentality of connecting with others and having good, wholesome fun. Another third place feature is letting yourself recenter, relax, and breathe. For many people, gardens and animals are the perfect way to do this. You'll find so many animals on the farm and may even learn a bit in case you want to raise chickens or have your own beehive. In general, animals are simply good for the soul.
Get here early, walk the prairie, hearing the donkey baying in the morning and the chickens being let out of the coops and the horses tromping around out in the prairie. Those sounds, I think, are instinctual inside of us that we don't hear anymore.
Lee took us outside to meet the animals and immerse ourselves in the farm. Oh, this is so beautiful.
Oh, this is gorgeous.
Here's our flower garden. You come back here and this is where you start falling into that third place. You got the sheep, the ducks, the chickens, the gardens, the flowers. Sit here with your family or yourself and just read a book or enjoy the quiet.
Lee is a great storyteller and he had so many to share. One of my favorites explains why the nursery rhyme is called Mary Had a Little Lamb, not Mary Had a Sheep.
Not only do I want to capture the piece, I want to capture the story. The lady who had Coco lived in a subdivision and was butted up against a sheep farm, and she ends up with this little lamb. And she loved her little lamb, and she got a little outfit for her little lamb and a little harness and walked it around the subdivision, and everybody loved the little lamb, but it grew up. I think their intentions was when it grew up, it would go back to the farm.
Yeah.
The farm closed. She's in her subdivision with this growing lamb, sheep,
goodness.
and they didn't know what to do with it. And then she calls us and says, I want to bring this sheep out. I have it in our house, and it's in the subdivision. We got to find a home for it.
Oh my God.
So Coco is our people person, and comes to the fence before the others do. That's some of the stories that we have.
There are also cows. One of them named Penny they've had since she was a calf. She had to be bottle fed around the clock as a baby, so she's a special one for the staff. There are also farm cats, a donkey, ducks, turkeys, geese, and chickens, which we'll talk about soon. The goats are also special.
Here's the type of goats that we have. They are almost extinct, and Connor Prairie is doing the breeding program to keep them alive, and that's where we get our goats to continue that.
And then there are the horses.
We have a quarter horse, which was a representation of more of the wagon pullers, the heavier duty animal that worked on the farm, where the standardbreds were riders and more buggy pullers.
The day Kate and I visited, the farm was also caring for two enormous and beautiful draft horses called Percherons. These horses are a shade smaller than Clydesdales. They're about 16 to 17 hands at the withers. And if, like me, you don't ride horses, that means they're about 5.5 feet tall, where their back and neck meet. Basically, their backs are about as tall as I am.
They're draft horses, they're Percherons.
They're so big.
And they would have been representations of the field workers.
Wow.
You want to see them a little closer?
Beautiful.
Yeah, they're incredible animals. And they're gentle giants. Super friendly, super good animals.
Guys,
I know.
I think you're getting jealous over here too.
Little John.
Little John.
Oh my
You
goodness.
want to come pet Little John?
Sure. Hi, Little John. Oh my goodness, you are not very little. Man, you are beautiful. Hi.
The farm works closely with Purdue as the experts and educators about animal husbandry with all the animals on the farm. They even come out to the farm during the year for public education. If you're interested in raising chickens, Lee says Purdue Extension is where you'll find the experts.
Purdue Extension are our experts. Again, back to originally, I had no background in ag at all. And I'm like, we got a bunch of chickens. And you know, when I sit down with our poultry expert from Purdue Extension, he reminds me that that's a flock that you have, and this is how you raise them, and this is what you want to work through. So they'll be here to explaining all of those things. So a lot of what I say is from my education and learning from them. But definitely for people who are thinking about raising chickens in their backyard, they're going to want to find if they legally can, and not have complaints from their neighbors, and if there's city ordinances on all those things. But it's really very easy, to tell you the truth.
Later, Lee took us into the chicken coop, which was pretty loud because of the fans going. He said people can peek in and see the eggs and the chickens. They clean the coops weekly since there are visitors who may want to look inside. There are posters with information about the types of chickens on the farm too, so you can see how many different kinds there are. The chickens are very smart, and they like their routine.
For us, it's a little bit more challenging because we want to represent the 1920s. My contact at Purdue is working me up a plan to change our flock and get down to a couple breeds. Everybody lives in their own coop. Yeah. They all know where they live, so they know it's about time to close up, and they start heading towards their coop. And we've got a count. Everybody's got a head count inside the coop. If you walked in there, you can go in there and look at the eggs and grab some eggs and things, and you can see their little roster, make sure everybody's home.
They actually do know, and that's weird to me because I have no background on a farm. And I was sitting out here like day 2, and I'm just like, the new girl, you look around. And the roosters came up, one came up, then another, then a chicken, then a turkey. And they're just like looking at me like they were talking to me. Like, what do you want from me? I didn't understand. But it was 4:30. They're used to being put up at 4. So they knew their schedule was off. So they were coming to me to go, hey.
If you really do want to learn more about chickens, Purdue Extension seems like the place to start. Be on the lookout for another homesteaders event at the farm so you can get a lot of questions answered from the experts. All these animals are spread around the farm's main green space, which is where they have events like their old tractor exhibit, wool demonstrations, or vendors for handmade markets. There's also a corn crib and a Model T in the garage. There's the traditional family farmhouse where you can find the store to buy meat, honey, toys, and penny candy. And there's also a tenant house. In the houses, almost everything has been donated. Old pedal sewing machines, those backwards-looking school desks, furnitures, and a kid's room full of antique toys.
This house, it's a replica of a Sears and Roebuck home, the tenant house. So this is the farmer's house. This is where the farmer would have raised his family and lived. And then they would have had a lot of times a tenant house where families would come, work on the farm, earn some money, and hopefully then start their own farm at some point. So this farmhouse is a replica of a 1920s Sears and Roebuck home that you could purchase out of the magazine. And that house is an actual Sears and Roebuck home that they were going to destroy in Lafayette, and they moved it here, and we've done the restoration on it.
A lot of the house felt like stepping back into my great-grandmother's basement, but the kitchen is the most transportive of all.
Yeah, this was really interesting, all of the kitchen stuff. This is what feels the most old, like 1920s to me.
Oh, good.
Because you're not going to see this, like some of the furniture, accessories I might see in my grandma's house, I'm not going to see this there.
If you think cooking today is time-consuming, even a quick glance at these kitchens will have you dancing with joy that microwaves exist. You can also check out the blacksmith shop.
The next building is our blacksmith shop, and that's where the farmer would go get nails and hinges and all the different things. This blacksmith shop is a donation by a blacksmith. He was a Purdue professor, and his hobby and his love and his passion was blacksmithing. And he wanted a place where more people than his house would come and see that art, because again, it's a dying art. And so he donated all of the material and the building and everything here. And then he had apprentices under him who are now doing it.
If you're a fan of the blacksmith TV show competition called Forged in Fire, you'd love the demonstrations. Sunshine shared a little more about blacksmiths that she's learned.
Well, they were also the vet of the farm. I learned that. It was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. They're, dealing with the horses and shoeing them and stuff, but they would care for the other animals too.
There's one more story Lee told me that I want to share. One of the important pieces of the farm is the windmill. Lee explains why it was so necessary.
The windmill in the 1900s was a part of the farm that was almost a necessity because they were reliant on rainwater. And if they didn't have rainwater, what would they do to irrigate their crops or get water for the animals? So windmills become more and more popular, and it allowed them to expand into areas, regions that didn't have much rainfall. So the windmills were very important.
Lee has learned a lot about windmills through the process and explained the fan blades can be opened or closed. When open, the fan harnesses the wind's power and begins turning, which is what pumps water. Farmers were extremely dependent on the weather. Unfortunately, when Lee started working at the farm, this crucial piece of farming history was broken.
To get this from broken to where you see today was about $8,000. And the farm didn't have that budget. Yeah. So I started reaching out to, who may want to contribute to education about windmills? So I called Duke Energy and I said, we've got a windmill and I've got a project and I want to make it a wow point on the farm. They said, well, you like it.
What was a drop in the bucket to Duke has given the farm one of its most iconic pieces. After the break, we'll hear about the farm meat, produce, and honey that's for sale and talk about volunteering. This episode is brought to you by Indiana's own Comfort Option. As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about the Hoosier State. It's full of hidden treasures just waiting to be unearthed, one of which is Comfort Option. They do something that no one else does: make customized, rebuildable mattresses. Make, because since 1952, the same family has been building mattresses right here in central Indiana. Custom, because you work with them to handcraft the perfect mattress for you. And rebuildable, because their mattresses are made with a one-of-a-kind modular design. Any piece can be swapped out to create a whole new construction. I've had my Comfort Option mattress for the last 7 years, and I'm happy to report I still look forward to going to sleep every night. After a day of hiking or taking on a park challenge, I love knowing I'll sleep well and wake up rested. To find your perfect mattress, visit Comfort Option online at comfortoption.com. Listeners to the podcast can get 15% off with the code INTHEPARKS. That's one word, in the parks. And hey, if you're near Fort Harrison State Park, why not stop by the Comfort Option store at the Keystone Fashion Mall and say hi? You can build your mattress in the store or online. Visit comfortoption.com. And now, back to the show. There may be some people wondering exactly how much is this farm an authentic working 1920s farm? Like, to put it delicately, what happens with some of the animals they're raising? And yes, here is where we might see some differences between the farm and other third places like Starbucks, because you can purchase meat at the farm store. That, yes, comes from the animals. But unlike a 1920s farm, the circle of life isn't entirely on display for young eyes. However, it's an important chance to educate yourself and kids about where our food comes from, and not just our meat.
I think of it a lot more like education. So people can come and visit the farm. They see how it was raised in the 1920s, but they also get to see the animal and they get to see how the animal's raised. It's way different than commercial farming. When you go to many grocery stores or many fast food, I think everybody at some point in time thinks, what's going in my body? Where did this meat come from? How was it handled? How was it raised? What chemicals did they put into it? And they can come to the farm and see the way it was done in the 1920s, but yet it's pure, it's clean. They're walking the pastures, they're eating, and they're happy animals. They're well cared for animals. They can physically see them. They can gain a respect for that animal. That animal has a personality, and it's ultimately going to become the cycle of life and food for somebody. But it's done in a different way, and they can see it. And we can have an opportunity to tell them just that same thing. So at least maybe they go out and think about, where did this meat come from that I'm eating? How was this animal cared for and taken care of? And what did they pump it full of before it goes in my body? And the same thing is true about our gardens. We have 3 great gardens. We use heirloom vegetables, and it's all hand raised. We turn over the animal waste, and we compost the straw and the waste. And then we use that on our gardens as the fertilizer. I mean, you should see our tomatoes. They're just almost as big as your head. Did you see some of those tomatoes out there? Yeah. And it just produces an incredible vegetable.
The farm store also sells honey from their local hives. You can see the active bees, and there's also a safe place to learn about how the hives work.
Our beekeepers are incredible. They're super great people. They were school teachers. And they want to educate the community as well. Mm-hmm. They donated and brought together this. It's like a little mock
nice.
beehive.
Yeah.
And on there is information and things that they're going to learn about what's going on inside the beehives.
The beehives aren't too far from the orchard, and they help pollinate the apples.
This is our heirloom apple orchard. This is on the hill, and you know what? In the fall, where the sun sets? Right out there.
Gorgeous.
So we do in the evenings, sunset in the apple orchard, and the sun drops here. People can bring their blankets and music and just relax and be in the apple orchard as the sun comes down.
Kate's gonna move out here, so.
Starting to see how Prophetstown State Park would be an ideal third place. It brings people from all walks of life together in a peaceful environment, lets you connect with each other in enjoyable, childlike ways, and awakens your curiosity. If you're like my friend Kate and are ready to unpack in the farmhouse guest bedroom, Why not start with volunteering?
Farm is a fun place to be. Not only do we have a lot to do, but I see people out enjoying mowing and weeding, and they love the gardens. We have a volunteer application. You can find that online or just call us.
The farm's also a perfect spot for field trips, homeschool groups, and anyone wanting to remember Indiana life 100 years ago.
And we'll get all the kids here and we'll talk about the history of the farm and the importance that agriculture played in the growth of Indiana. And that's very important because in the 1900s, almost half of the population in Indiana were somehow related to agriculture. And now it's a small fraction of that. That's what the founders saw, and they wanted to preserve through a not-for-profit. They wanted to preserve that 1920s farm so that it wouldn't be lost forever.
I loved going back in time on the farm. You can see why it's worth preserving. It was a hard life with long days outside. Farmers relied on the weather, their bodies, and animals for survival. I don't want to sentimentalize the so-called good old days because there were certainly hardships and definitely negatives about the 1920s. But I think there's a current desire to make sure we haven't lost our connections to the land or the satisfaction that comes from doing an honest day's hard work. And there's a humility we want to cultivate that's often found when you realize you're at the mercy of the sun and rain. Maybe a little time on the farm will be good for your soul.
The farm today is going in a great direction. I think our community today and our culture today, they want to see history, they want to go outside, they want to learn, but they also want to take something back home with them. So some museums you go to, it's neat, it's really historic, but what did I bring home and learn from, and how can I apply it at home today? I think coming to the farm, you really have the opportunity to experience history, but apply it in my home today.
From the farm, there's also a grass walking path through the prairie that leads to the native settlement about a mile away. In the summer, the prairie is full of wildflowers and tall waving grasses. On a recent walk this fall, I looked back across the grasses at the red barn and saw the trees changing colors while the horses grazed in the pasture. My sister walked ahead, holding my young nephew's hand. My brother-in-law had my little niece up on his shoulders. Earlier, we'd spent time letting the kids ride their scooters through Prophetstown, hike to the prairie overlook, and help the kids jump across a small creek. We played with old toys in the farm's tenant house, climbed in the carriage, and watched chickens scurry around the farmyard. Then we finished up our time exploring the farm with this final walk. Okay, it wasn't all peaceful. My sister was holding my nephew's hand so he'd stop bugging his sister. They're little kids, they wanted to make every tall prairie grass into a way to attack each other. They kept sticking the fuzzy end in each other's ears. But it was fun, wholesome, and beautiful. It was everything you'd want a third place to be. A huge thanks goes to the Farm at Prophetstown staff who shared their time and knowledge with me. Thank you, Lee Gowdy and Sunshine Bickett. In the Parks is not officially associated with Indiana DNR, but I'm grateful for all the incredible work they do for our parks. Please share this podcast with your friends and give us a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. You can always follow along on Instagram and Facebook at In the Parks Online for more state parks content and my recommendations for the best places to get ice cream near each park. After visiting Prophetstown, I stopped by the Igloo Frozen Custard, and it was great. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you in the parks.